Good day to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our daily tropical weather outlook for today, Monday, May 18th, 2026, the start of a brand new week. And what are we looking at to start the week in the tropics right now? Nothing, of course, at least in the Atlantic. No activities expected for the next 7 days. And the same can be said about the Pacific. Both basins are quiet right now, and they remain quiet for the foreseeable future. It's still May. We just started the hurricane season in the Pacific just a few days ago, so it obviously makes sense that we are not, yet seeing, things jumping off the wall as we typically do. We don't, just because hurricane season starts does not mean that things are going to happen from day one. Sometimes they do, but very oftentimes they don't. So it's not surprising that nothing is happening in both basins right now. Taking a look at the satellite imagery in the Atlantic, and obviously you can see not much happening right now. There's a little bit of a interesting formation occurring here in the Bahamas with some shower and thunderstorm activity, but that's likely all that it is. It kind of came seemingly from the tail end of a front which was over the western Atlantic here, with a big extratropical system that moved through across the northwestern Atlantic over the last several days, and I guess the remnant of it in the form of some sort of low or trough of lower pressure here east of the Bahamas and southwest of Bermuda remains, but again, just some interesting area of clouds. And it, again, is probably going to be not anything more than showers or thunderstorms. But as I mentioned yesterday, we tend to get these situations, especially in the early season, where sometimes where we have these big extratropical systems move through, we could get a low pressure that breaks off at the tail end of the front. And that sometimes could spin something up, especially off the East Coast. And I'm pretty sure we're probably going to have that opportunity at some point this season, especially given that we have an El Nino and in general the southeastern portion of the United States, well, not necessarily the U.S. coast, but off the southeast coast and in the southwest Atlantic in general tends to be the most favored area this season. And obviously we're going to see that play out as the season goes on. In the Pacific, obviously nothing happening as well, and you can see there's a lot of dry air right now, especially off to the northwestern portion of the basin here. And obviously, once again, a sign of the fact that it is still very early on in the season. The atmosphere is still not very unstable yet and ready for tropical development. So things remain quiet right now, and obviously enjoy the quiet while it lasts. Sea surface temperature anomalies throughout both the Atlantic and the Pacific basin right now generally remain warm. We have generally warmer than normal to some areas of blue, slightly below normal in the eastern tropical Atlantic, with warmer than normal sea surface temperature anomalies remaining concentrated in the southwestern Atlantic and in the Gulf of Mexico, right again where we typically see development this time of year. So that is interesting, but we also see the continued increasing warmth of the Pacific, and the El Nino really coming on here. Once again, very warm anomalies beginning to fill in throughout the entire equatorial Pacific. In fact, we already have some anomalies here off the coast of South America, some places reaching as warm as 3, even 4 degrees Celsius above normal. And you can see that with the Nino 3.4. Not quite off the coast of South America, but the Nino 3.4 region, where we generally watch for the intensity of ENSO. It's just been an upward climb ever since the spring, and this is going to continue to be the case as we head into the summer and fall, as we are likely going to see a very, very strong El Nino at some point later this year. And then we have the MDR, which has actually been cooling, at least over the last several days, as before that, especially last month, we saw a pretty big warm-up. And I mean, the Atlantic is kind of actually going to go back and forth between warming up and then cooling down, especially this time of year, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But we are in a cooling phase right now, and in general, the Atlantic hasn't been too warm this year, but either way, I'd say that this in and of itself is probably going to warm back up, and even if the Atlantic isn't super duper warm or near record breaking warm, I'm pretty sure we're generally going to have a warmer than normal Atlantic this year. But Especially this time of year, we tend to have huge jumps going from warmer to cooler in just a span of a few days. And one of the reasons why is the Saharan air. And this chart here, showing this chart for the first time this year, now that we're starting to get into hurricane season, and we, talk about Saharan air a lot more as we especially deal with it quite a bit in the early season. We tend to see a lot of Saharan air out in the deep tropics, and that can have an effect on sea surface temperature anomalies, but especially the way that the satellite is able to capture the accuracy of whatever sea surface temperature anomalies might actually be out there. So Saharan air actually kind of messes with and contaminates the satellite readings a little bit, and I'm also pretty sure as well that because we have Saharan air, that causes the actual sea surface temperatures to cool down a little bit, as I'm pretty sure. We're not getting as strong of direct sun, rays to hit the ocean and obviously absorb the heat from the sun. But in general, Saharan air is a big cause as to why we generally see especially rapid swings in sea surface temperature anomalies from day-to-day basis this time of year in the Atlantic. But in general, right now, of course, things are still remaining warm, but obviously, especially with Saharan air, that's going to be something that we're going to see quite often throughout the entire season this year. Especially this year, given that we're going to be in an El Nino, but even factoring that out, we see that quite a bit right now because obviously it is still very early on in the season, and we tend to have a lot of Saharan air in the season. And taking a look at the models now, let's take a look at what's going to happen in the tropics over the next several days. And looking at the GFS up to hour 168, not much happening really. We have a nice Bermuda high that builds over the southwestern Atlantic, and that's going to help, especially those in the eastern portion of the United States, really flip to dealing with much more of a summer warm pattern of heat and thunderstorms, and especially a lot of air coming straight from the Caribbean. And we also are definitely going to see that especially help severe weather as well continue to increase throughout the central and upper plains. And in fact, I actually took a look at the severe weather outlook for today, and we have a moderate risk for portions of the mid-plains in effect for today. So be aware of that, and severe weather is actually going to increase for them quite a bit. We tend to see a lot of severe weather early on in the season across the southeast, especially through Dixie Alley and also through the plains as well. We are actually still in, severe weather season, especially tornado season in May, so kind of makes sense as to why we're seeing this pattern. And it's definitely going to help with their tornado season be active, and that's just, something we see this time of year. But in terms of tropical development, obviously nothing happening. You could see some vorticity beginning to build here around Central America, as I mentioned. As we get towards the end of the month, we're going to have a more favorable MJO phase move in, and that should help potentially trigger some sort of CAG development as we typically see this time of year over Central America, and that is definitely going to be interesting to watch, especially as we get towards the end of the month and into the beginning of next month for the Atlantic and also for the Eastern Pacific as well. I don't want to do that. But luckily right now, too, taking a look at everything over the next 7 days, nothing popping up on the GFS in the Eastern Pacific as well. And, I could scroll through every other model and nothing will pop up on anything as well for the next 7 days. So all is quiet right now, and it looks like it's going to stay that way for at least the foreseeable future. So enjoy it while it lasts. That's all I could say. With that being said, though, I'm going to end it off for today's tropical weather outlook, since obviously there's nothing much else going on. If you enjoyed what you saw today, would really appreciate if you like, comment, and especially subscribe if you want more videos like these, which we do them on a daily basis. So especially if you're interested in that, would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. And it also helps us as well grow and reach more viewers as well, especially with the way the algorithm works here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.